Hello, it is 9 p.m. At this time to English New Edition. For tonight headlines, we have the head of state presided over the ninth meeting of the Council of Ministers. The celebration of the 46th anniversary of the Egyptian Armed Forces. For the international scene in South Sudan, the mining operation installed in the face of flooding. Welcome to our newsroom. Under the chairmanship of His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, President of the Republic, Head of Government, took place this Tuesday, 6 June 2023, the ninth session of the Council of Ministers. The following texts were examined and approved. Listen for more detail to the spokesman of the government, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sous la présidence du chef de l'État, Son Excellence, M. Ismail Omar Guelleh, s'est tenue la 9e séance du Conseil des ministres en ce mardi 6 juin 2023.
Ministry Delegate in charge of Economy and Innovation. The first question, draft law on the digital code. The Republic of Djibouti has embarked on a strategy to develop the digital economy in line with the terms of its roadmap for digital transformation in the Digital 2035 vision. The draft digital code covers the entire digital information technology sector, from the starting point of data and user protection, online commercial transactions, the liability of the various parties involved, penal provisions relating to offenses committed in the context of the use of digital services, as well as licenses and conditions granted in the context of the activities of operators in the sector, institutional decision-making bodies, user security, and, where applicable, sanctions and controls concerning activities in the digital sector. The present draft code comprises a preliminary book dealing with general provisions and 8 books dealing with provision applicable to the areas defined below, which have been adopted by the Council of Ministers. Book 1, Protection of Personal Data. Book 1 of the adopted draft digital code establishes a new legal framework for the protection of personal data. This new legal framework strengthens the rights of all citizens with regard to the protection of their personal data and make those involved in processing such data more accountable. Book 1 covers the reinforcement of the rights of people affected by the processing of personal data, the information and security obligations of data controllers and processors, data transfer and interconnection mechanisms, and the creation of competent data protection authorities. This new legislation is accompanied by the creation of a new supervisory body, the National Data Protection Commission, whose main missions are to guarantee the preservation of the fundamental rights and freedoms of individuals and to ensure their protection with regard to processing of their personal data. In order to support companies in the public sector in complying with this text, the book introduces the creation of a data protection officer who will independently ensure that the data control and processor comply with the applicable legal and regulatory obligations. The data protection officer's duties will include informing and advising the data control and the company's employees, monitoring the company's compliance with the provisions of this book, and acting as a focal point for cooperation with the Commission. Book number 2, Electronic Communications. Book 2 of the adopted draft digital code defines electronic communications as any emission, transmission, or reception of signals, writing, images, or sounds by electromagnetic means. It also covers sector governments and state management of sacred resources, legal regimes applicable to operators with technological neutrality and universal services as guiding principles, assessments, rights of way, and ex-ante regulation of operators, network security and breach notification, access, interconnection, and infrastructure sharing. In this respect, the scope of the book applies to all electronic communication activities carried out by any natural or legal person establishing and or operating an electronic communication network or providing electronic communication services on Djiboutian territory. The code lays down important obligations for electronic communication operators in terms of users and caller identification, the fight against fraud linked to international traffic, the management of stolen terminals, re-questioning by the judicial authority, and the management of electronic waste. In fact, the present book makes a substantial addition to the reform of the regulations of the electronic communication sector by strengthening the ARMD and reforming its remit, particularly in terms of the legal regime applicable to it. Book 3, Cryptology. Book 3 of the adopted digital code deals with cryptology. Cryptology is defined as the science of protecting and securing information, in particular for confidentiality, authentication, integrity, and non-repudiation. The book's provisions cover, among other things, the conditions of use and supply of cryptology resources and services. It also defines cryptology means as any hardware or software designed or modified to transform data, whether information or signals, using secret conversions or to perform the reverse cooperation with or without a secret conversion. The main purpose of cryptology cryptology is to guarantee the security of data storage transmission by ensuring its confidentiality, authentication, or integrity control. The book establishes the principle that the use of cryptology means is unrestricted, as is the supply, import, and export of cryptology means providing exclusively authentication or integrity control functions subject to the limits set out in the code. Book 4. Electronic Commerce. This book on electronic commerce applies to any order, contact, or transaction concluded online or by electronic means for the supply of goods or services, as well as to any electronic commerce activity carried out on the territory of the Republic of Djibouti or for users established on the territory of the Republic of Djibouti. Excluded from its scope of application are gambling activities, legal representation and assistance, and activities carried out by notaries. However, exceptions are made for contracts concluded between professionals, provided that they do not infringe public policy, do not deprive consumers of the guarantees offered in the book, and do not derogate from central essential provisions. The text establishes the legal regime for e-commerce activities and sets out how the law enforced in the Republic of Djibouti is to be applied to activities conducted online from or to their territory of the Republic of Djibouti, and a legal regime applicable to these activities, how they are to be carried out, which are authorized and which are to be prohibited. The contractual liability of those involved is specified to clarify the rights and obligations of the parties and encourage the development of online commerce within a framework of trust. Book 5. Consumer Law. The electronic communications and e-commerce sectors generally require specific measures that are absent from current legislation. This book on consumer law thus enriches the right of access to electronic communication services and the obligation to provide open access to the internet without discrimination. In a context of opening up to competition and the emergence of new private players, users stand to gain from a right of access to services that is clarified and strengthened by firmer supply and non-discrimination obligations. The aim is to encourage the principle of open access to the internet to ensure the growth of the digital economy. It is vital that users are informed of the conditions under which services are provided, and in particular of the applicable tariffs. Operators will be required to make their pricing structures transparent, clear, and public in order to ensure that services are adopted by as many people as possible, especially the vulnerable. The book proposes specific obligations in terms of service and equipment provision, pricing, per contractual information, and contract management to ensure use under conditions adapted to people with special needs. The 6th book, Cybersecurity and Cybercrime. This book revisits the 2014 Cybersecurity Act in order to take account of the development that have resulted in recent decades. Notably, to complete the missing offenses, it creates 61 offenses, a large proportion of which relates to attacks on information system and data, and creates 5 offenses including interception of computerized data, damage to computerized data, production or manufacture of computerized data, use of produced or manufactured data, fraudulent obtaining of advantages, and 8 other offenses relating to forms of abuse such as abuse relating to computer, hardware, and software. 7th book, Innovative Digital Services, E-Administration, SmartGov. Until now, there have been no legal texts dealing with e-administration. The book on innovative digital services provides specific measures to enable its development. The book, which has now been adopted, provides for a general right of access to administrative documents and public information, with rules defining the terms and conditions of such accesses, with a view to reinforcing the transparency of administrative action and the confidence of citizens. Provisions for organizing the reuse of public data are included to enable the emergence of new data and services useful to the national economy. Relations between the administration and citizens can be improved by encouraging and facilitating electronic communication and the development of teleservices. This requires a policy to encourage dematerialization within the administration, as well as rules establishing a right for citizens to contact and respond to the administration electronically. A compendium of procedures that can be carried out electronically and the teleservices implemented will contribute to the development of the use of teleservices by citizens. Finally, Book 8 of final and transitional provisions will be either amended or approved, will ensure the consistency and legal order on texts. The adoption of the draft digital code is a comprehensive legal arsenal that will make it possible to regulate the entire digital ecosystem and thereby accelerate the development of the digital economy, which represents a crucial lever for the country's development. It is a tool providing individuals, businesses, and public administrations with fast, efficient access to all legal information applicable to the digital world. Second question, draft degree on the organization and operation of the High Council for the Digital Economy and Innovation. The purpose of this draft degree is to set out the organization, operation, missions, and powers of the High Council for the Digital Economy established by Law number 168/N/22/8L. Digital technology is a national priority that affects all sectors and areas of activity. This body, created at the highest level, makes digitalization a central priority for the state. Its aim is to supervise, monitor, and evaluate the implementation of a national digital economy strategy. It is supported by a steering committee responsible for coordinating the development and updating of the national digital economy strategy and for ensuring that the strategy and projects are properly implemented. Ministry of Defense in charge of relations with Parliament. Third question, draft decree appointing members of the Board of Directors of the retired military case. The purpose of this draft decree is to appoint new members to the Board of the Directors of the retired military case. The Board of Directors is the deliberative, monitoring, and supervisory body of that. Its mission is to ensure its proper execution of the CMR's mission, examine and adopt the budget and financial accounts, and ensure compliance with the institution's general rules of organization and operation. Board members are appointed for a 2-year term, renewable once adoption of the project will enable the CMR to fully accomplish its missions. Fourth question, appointing of the prefects of the Djibouti city and of the 5 interior regions. The following are appointed: Mr. Abdi Sikiye Kayad, Prefect of the City of Djibouti; Mr. Abdul Malik Mohammed Bonita, Prefect of the Ali Sibeh region; Mr. Hassan Abdi Roble, Prefect of the Dikhr region; Mr. Hassan Dabale Ahmed, Prefect of the Arta region; Mr. Musa Aden Migane, Prefect of Ubukh region; Mr. Muhammad Humad Abbas, Prefect of the Tajura region. Fifth question, draft decree appointing a Director General. Mr. Abdi Abdullahi Ubsiye is appointed Director General of Population and Family. Finally, communications. The Prime Minister gave a mission report on his participation in the investiture ceremony of the President of the Republic of Turkey held in Ankara on the 3rd of June 2023. The ceremony, which took place at the Presidential Palace in Ankara, was attended by numerous personalities. On the sidelines of the ceremony, the Prime Minister held talks with the Minister of the Emirat of Bahrain, the President of the Guinea, Rwanda, Togo, Kyrgyzstan, and other personalities. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and the Ministry of Defense reported on their official working visit to France on May 30, 2023 as part of the strengthening of bilateral defense cooperation. The Ministry of Economy and Finance reported on the economic outlook for the first quarter of 2023. The Ministry of Trade and Tourism reported on its participation in the ZILCAF Ministerial Retreat held from May 29 to 31, 2023 in Nairobi. And finally, the Ministry of the Environment and Sustainable Development reported on its participation in the ministerial segment of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific Conference Biodiversity held on June 2nd of 2023 in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa.
Under Djibouti Army Forces were created 21 days before independence, and today celebrate the 46th anniversary of their creations with great pomp and the ceremony at the center Sita in Camp Sheikh Osman, held under the auspices of the Prime Minister, His Excellency Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed. This year's commemorative ceremony was attended by the Minister of Defense in charge of relations with Parliament, Hassan Omar Mohammed, and the Chief of the Armed Forces, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim. The ceremony was also attended by the Chief of Staff of the Somali Army, General Odowa Yusuf Rage, who was the guest of honor of the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim. Numerous members of the government, including the Director of National Security, Hassan Saeed Khairi, the Chief of the Defense Staff, Brigadier General Tahir Ali Mohammed, Commander of the various corps of Djiboutian nation, a plethora of officers from the various armed forces corps and senior officers from foreign affairs. Foreign forces based in our country took part in these 45th anniversaries of the Djiboutian Armed Forces. For the Djibouti Armed Forces High Command, the main organizers of this big event, it was a really show of forces. It was on the ground of the Humbuli Technical and Tactical Training Center, SITA, at Camp Sheikh Osman, then clean as vessels and richly decorated with the color of the national flag, that the commemorative ceremony of the 2023 editions of this event, marking the 45th anniversary of the Djiboutian Armed Forces, took place today, and it was a great effort. On his arrival, Prime Minister was welcomed by the Minister of Defense, Hassan Omar Mohammed, and the Chief of the General Staff, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, before saluting the national flag and taking part in the traditional review of the troops, awaiting the sponsors. The ceremony began with the reading of the Holy Quran, followed by a by speech of the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, who is in his speech read by his Chief of Staff, Colonel Muhammad Qayad Najji, looked back over the past year before setting out the prospect for the future. In his speech scheduled for this 45th anniversary, the Chief of the General Staff of the Djiboutian Armed Forces, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, paid tribute to our valiant soldiers who have sacrificed their soul to defend their homeland. Following the statement by the Chief of Staff, the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, accompanied by the Minister of Defense Hassan Omar Mohammed, the Chief of the Defense Staff General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, and the Chief of the Somali Army Odawa Yusuf Ragi, the Head of Security Hassan Saeed Khairi, all members of the government, senior military officers and guests visited the tomb of the founding fathers of the Djiboutian nation, Al-Hajj Hassan Guled Absidoun, to read the prayers in his memory.
اللهم أبدل دارا خيرا من داره وأهلا خيرا من أهله وزوجا خيرا من زوجه وأدخله الجنة واعذه من عذاب القبر ومن فتنة النار. اللهم لا تحرمنا أجره ولا تفتنا بعده واغفر اللهم لنا وله ولجميع أموات المسلمين. الفاتحة له.
As usual, the National Music Band kicked off the military parade. The march went then opened by the flag pilot under the command of the Headquarters Chief of Staff, Colonel Wagdi Jama' Musa, followed by the officers pilot, the Republican Guard Regiment and the Forces National Troop, the various Coast Guard units, the female personnel of the National Army led by Colonel Amina Muhammad Ali, AMIA, the National Air Force, the National Navy, and Artillery, finally DCMAT. For the second time, the RKG, the CSAO Troop and National Police Commando and RAR-1 in turn spaced in front of the official stands, singing and uploaded by the crowd. All this was done in an atmosphere charged with patriotic fervor.
Rapidement sur décision du chef d'état-major général des armées. Le passage de cette dernière unité marque la fin du défilé militaire. À présent, j'invite nos honorables invités à se déplacer au monument de dépôt, au monument de martyrs pour le dépôt d'armes. Je vous remercie pour votre aimable attention. Merci.
After this high-level parade of the troops, Prime Minister Abdulkadir Kamil Mohammed, accompanied by the Minister of Defense Hassan Omar Mohammed, the Chief of the General Staff General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, the Chief of the Staff of the Somalia Army General Odwa Yusuf Rage, who was the guest of honors of the Chief of Staff, and numerous members of the government, the Director of National Security, and all the senior military officers went to the foot of the monument dedicated to the martyrs to lay a wreath of flowers and also to read the Fatiha.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم من خلفهم ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون صدق الله العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. اللهم اغفر لشهدائنا وشهداء المسلمين. اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وعافهم واعف عنهم وأكرم نزلهم ووسع مدخلهم واغسلهم بالماء والثلج والبرد ونقهم من الذنوب والخطايا كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس. اللهم وأبدل دارا خيرا من دارهم وأهلا خيرا من أهلهم وزوجا خيرا من زوجهم وأدخلهم الجنة وأعذهم من عذاب القبر ومن فتنة النار. اللهم لا تحرمنا أجرهم ولا تفتنا بعدهم واغفر اللهم لنا ولهم ولجميع أموات المسلمين. الفاتحة لهم.
At the end of the ceremony, to mark the 45th anniversary of the Djiboutian Armed Forces, Prime Minister inaugurated a new reception hall for the Djibouti Armed Forces. This new hall will undoubtedly meet the need for a quality infrastructure to organize a larger ceremonial event and receptions. Under the patronage of the Secretary General of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Saleh Benoita Turab, the Department of Health yesterday launched a training sessions on the Geographic Information System in the presence of the WHO Deputy Representative Mr. Farah Hassan Farah and the leadership of the Health Information Director. In partnership with the WHO, these important training sessions will help participants to move to the next level by using the GIS applications as part of the programs to digitize our national health information system. Over the course of 5 days, 50 personnel and national experts from the Ministry of Health will familiarize themselves with the software environment of this tool, gaining an in-depth understanding of the various mapping techniques used to analyze health data. These digital GIS data mapping platforms will be able to formulate probable scenarios and predict in advance any potential epidemic or other health threats in the countries. Clearly, mastering this tool will contribute to a complete mapping analysis of the country's health situation in real time, making it easier to take decisions. They opened a successful introductions to golf. The Duda Golf Club today opened its door to all golf enthusiasts for a free introductory day. The Secretary of State for Sports, His Excellency Hassan Mohammed Kamil, attended the event alongside several other officials, including the Secretary General, Ms. Khadija Ibrahim Idris, the Director General of the Mohammed Umar, the Golf Association. The Djibouti Golf Association is in the process of becoming a federation, according to the minister, located in an exceptional setting. The Duda Golf Club offers a quality course that meets international standards. The open day was an opportunity for participants to discover this exciting sport and to train with professionals. So golf is a fast-growing sport in Djibouti with many local players and regular exchanges with the foreign clubs. The ambitions of the Djibouti Golf Federation Association is to develop the sport in the countries and give it the visibility it deserves. Participants were able to enjoy the modern facilities of the Duda Golf Club and benefit from experts' advices on how to improve their games. The day was a great success for golf in Djibouti and could mark the start of the new era for the sport in the country. As part of the strengthening of economic and trade ties between Saudi Arabia and the Republic of Djibouti, the Federation of the Saudi Chamber of Commerce and the Saudi Ministry of Transport organized a workshop to consolidate and stimulate investment by Saudi companies in Djibouti's free trade zones on 4 June 2023 at the headquarters of the Federations of Saudi Chamber of Commerce in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Djibouti's ambassador to Riyadh, His Excellency Diayeddine Said Bamakrama, took part in this important workshop alongside His Excellency the Deputy Minister of Transport and Logistics, Dr. Rumaha Al-Rumaha, and the Vice President of the Federations of the Saudi Chambers of Commerce, Mr. Fayez Al-Shuali. Also in attendance were the Saudi member of the Joint Djibouti-Saudi Businessmen's Council, senior officials from the Saudi Export Bank, and by video conference, the chairman of the Djibouti Port and Free Zone Authority, Abu Bakr Umar Hadi, and the director of the Djibouti National Investment Promotion Agency, Mr. Mahdi Darar Obsiye. And the workshop was an opportunity to review the efforts of the Saudi Ministry of Transport to provide a comprehensive, detailed overview of the incentives and benefits available to Saudi investors and exporters, and drew up a map for the development of Saudi investment in Djibouti. For the international scene, fighting continues in Sudan. Witnesses fierce siege in Khartoum, artillery fire, street fighting and explosions rocked Khartoum on Tuesday, the capital of Sudan, where the army and paramilitary are battling for power for the 8th week running, while the humanitarian situation is worsening, according to the witnesses. In the heart of the capital on Tuti Island, where the Blue Nile meet the White Nile. Some Sudanese say that the paramilitaries are blocking the only bridge and the roads to capital and preventing them from using the boat that connect them to the rest of Khartoum. It is a complete siege, and if it goes on, there won't be enough food in the shop. They say shops worries Muhammad Yusuf, an islander in Khartoum. The army led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan is battling the paramilitaries of the Rapid Support Forces led by General Muhammad Hamdan Daglo. His battle is involving all types of weapons residents of the regions. This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.